So I grew up in church, and I would say that I grew up knowing about Jesus and knowing the stories and the sermons, and I was in youth group, and I did all the things that a Christian did. I was never involved in partying and drinking in high school. I landed a great job at a TV station, and I was a professional, and I was great at my job, and I loved it. And all of a sudden, the girl that I was dating for a few years, that relationship abruptly ended, and it was painful. And my thought was, how can a God who's good allow me to hurt like this? And so I decided to start looking for happiness in other things. And I found happiness in playing beer pong on the weekends with friends and smoking weed, and that lifestyle became my new life. It was soon after my partying lifestyle started that someone offered me heroin. The 4 or 5 years that ensued after that decision led me to a very dark and terrible place. I became a man that I never thought that I'd ever be. Everything that I'd worked for 20 years, everything that I had, my family, my friends, my job, it was all gone. And I found myself in jail because of my addiction, going through withdrawals, feeling the worst that I'd ever felt in my entire life. I was exhausted, spiritually, mentally, physically. I had nothing left in me, and I was at the bottom of the bottom, and that's when I cried out to God. I was on the sheriff's transport bus, and they were taking me from jail to the courtroom for my first court hearing. And I closed my eyes, and I just talked to God. And I said, God, I'm sorry. I have messed up. I have nothing left. I need you, and I need you now. And he showed up. Right there, as I was talking to him, all the weight of the sin that I've ever committed and the wrong things that I've ever done just burdened me down, and then was instantly released. And I felt so free and so much joy, and I felt like God himself was right there on the bus with me. And I just started crying because I was so happy, and I started singing to God right there on the bus, every worship song I could remember from singing from when I was a kid. And at that point, I was fearless. I didn't care if the judge told me I had to spend 20 years in jail. It didn't matter to me, because I realized that the God of the universe loves me and cares about me. And that's all I needed. I went to court. I didn't get 20 years. I got sentenced to a year in jail. And I didn't even have to serve an entire year. I only spent about 3 months. My cellmate told me about Teen Challenge, and he explained that it's basically just Bible boot camp, church every day, studying the Bible, learning about God and his love, and that sounded great to me. I'm just like, man, I can't wait to get released so I can go to Teen Challenge. I remember the day I got released from jail, my dad picked me up and drove me to the nearest Teen Challenge Center, which was in Shafter, California. And it was a resort, man. There was horses and chickens. It was 103 degrees, and it smelled like cows. You have nothing but time to learn what the Bible says and learn about God's character. And man, those 12 months were the best 12 months of my life. I realized how much God loved me and cared about me, and how much he wanted to use me to help other people. And then I finally decided to leave and take an internship at a church in San Luis Obispo for Mountain Brook Church. I served my internship position at Mountain Brook Church for about a year. Got a job at the TV station, and then the Lord called me to move on a different season of my life to a little bit smaller church and serve there for a while. And then the Lord called me back to Teen Challenge. I tried to find happiness in relationships, in family, in my work, in my job, my career, and eventually tried to find happiness in drugs. And through my mistakes, I realized that the only true contentment and joy that comes out of life comes from God. And I think anybody can relate to that. Nothing will satisfy except Jesus. I'm Tyler Thompson, and I am a new creation.